I'm sure you've seen videos on your Instagram, perhaps TikTok, videos on YouTube of people talking about peptides, which ones they're using, which are the hottest ones. The word retatrutide seems to be the movie star of the last year or so. And so naturally, a person that has never used peptides might say, well, what's all the hype about? Or what's all the fuss about, right? And are peptides right for me? As a coach, as a fitness coach for several years, I'd like to share my input. This is not medical advice. This is for you to consider and maybe take to your doctor or look to get some lab work so you yourself can make an informed decision as an adult. Okay, my story with peptides is pretty simple. Around 2020, I was working with a doctor for my testosterone replacement therapy, and he mentioned CJC 1295. And he's like, this is going to help you with growth hormone and stuff like this. And it's like, it was one of those moments where it's like, you had me at growth hormone kind of thing. I'd always wanted to try growth hormone and never really had a successful run with it, or like was able to get enough to actually try it. Probably for my own good, looking back into it, because as I've researched further, actual growth hormone sort of makes your body depend on an external growth hormone versus supplying your own. So you don't want to use growth hormone until your body is pretty much, it's safe to conclude that your body has already run its course and is not producing your own growth hormone. Okay, and so going back to the CJC 1295, I did try it. It was a little pricey, I thought at the time. I was like, wow, $400 for a month's worth. So, and it was only like 20 days, so it was 5 days on, 2 days off. And you know, I did sense a lot of energy with it. I remember feeling pretty impressively, stellarly lit. That's what I felt like. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a lot of energy. And I felt really good. I think it helped me burn a little body fat. My diet at that time was not really dialed in. So it'll bring me to another point here in a bit. I think the first month was my first like, okay, that works, but I don't think I could see myself at that time keeping it in my repertoire based on price alone. It was like $400 a month on top of everything else I paid for. Especially at that time, I was like, I can't do that. So I then I found like a research brand, and I won't tell you the brand just so you don't, because I have gone away from research use only peptides as of the last 6 months or so. But at that time, I didn't really know anything about peptides per se. I was like, it was more like, how do I get more CJC 1295? And so I did find this website, and I think that the peptide that I got was CJC 1295. I remember it feeling pretty similar, but it wasn't the same as the one my doctor got. The one that my doctor got was compounded in a 503A pharmacy, which I'll tell you more about here in a bit. That's a technical term. You might, if you know anything about what's going on with peptides and sort of the law in the last few months and years, you'll hear the word 503A, 503B, compound pharmacies. And so the one that he got, I felt was definitely cleaner, more powerful, more potent. The one I got that was research grade, it's research grade chemicals, as was what they go under. Research grade to me is kind of a hit or miss. Sometimes you go in there trying to save money, and you can sometimes lose money in the ones that aren't very properly dosed. Maybe it's not even real, it's counterfeit, and then not to mention is it safe, right? And again, I want to go and say this. It's not to say that there's never any reason to use a research grade chemical, because that's an opinion, and I think some people that I respect do use research grade chemicals, and so it's not really for me to make a final conclusion. What I can conclude for myself is I prefer a prescribed compounded peptide at a 503A pharmacy. I do prefer that. That is more expensive, but you get what you pay for in a way because it's prescribed to you. There's far more regulation, more safety. It's prescribed for the human to use as directed, versus a research grade chemical is sort of, it literally says in the bottle, do not use for not for human consumption, right? Reminds me of, anyway, we're gonna move on. I don't want this video to get suppressed by the algorithm for silly things. Any case, so those are some of the main differences: research grade versus prescribed or compounded. And so I didn't try my first, well, I did actually. The first one was prescribed. And then in 2021, I used the research grade. I probably didn't touch anything again till 2022. Interestingly enough, I tried something from that same brand that I got, that CJC, the research grade. I tried one that was called BPC 157, which was said to heal. And I think that one came in a nasal form, from memory, like a nasal spray. And I tried it, or maybe it was oral. Like I said, it was sort of weird, and it didn't do much for me. And I thought, oh, okay, well, it didn't work for me. Now, around 2022, I ended up getting an injury, or 2023, I'm not sure the year anymore. 2022, I think late. I ended up getting an injury on my right knee. And then that injury remained kind of nagging on me for years. From 2021 to 2022 to all the way to like 2025, I didn't really use too many peptides at all. So I kind of took almost a 2 to 3 year break off peptides. I sort of just said, okay, I like them. They're cool. They're a little always out of the price range I like. They're hard to get. You never know. And there was some guy on Instagram that was giving a code to save 10% off peptides. The guy seemed like he knew what I was talking about. So I went to the research grade chemical site, and this is a positive story of research grade. Like I said, I don't think that that's never a reason to never use them, because obviously my origin story is this one, that I ordered some BPC 157, and that one I used for my knee successfully this time. It was an injectable form, and for whatever reason I kind of took a risk there, because I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. It was kind of it's a gray market, gray type of feeling I felt, and I started injecting it into my knee. I looked up a protocol that was pretty successful on ChatGPT at the time. I think it was 200 milligrams or 200, I forget right off the top of my, 200 milligrams. In other words, it was 20 IUs. When it's all said and done, it was 20 international units on an insulin needle that I was injecting into my knee. And I did that for about 6 weeks. Now, what was very impressive to me was that I did in fact get a healed knee. My knee was a lot better. So much so that I told my mother about it, and they were telling her that she needed to get an operation on her knee, et cetera, et cetera. And she ended up she trusted me as her son, and she got the same product I did, and she ended up feeling a lot better in her knee. She didn't end up getting surgery. And then, so that was the BPC moment. And for me, then it kind of reopened the peptide conversation. This was 2025, and it's been over a year now that this story sort of developed. And so then 2025, you know what? I'm not even sure if it's 2024 anymore, because time goes by so quick. But this is the, at least you know the arc of the story. And so 2025, I started getting back into peptides slowly. Nothing exuberant. I still couldn't find tesamorelin, which is one I wanted to try. And I think like there was a website called Peptide Sciences that was selling like 5 milligrams for about $75. And when you did the math, you needed about 30 to 60 milligrams to have a successful cycle a month. And I was like, dude, that's pretty crazy when you do the math on that. And I was like, and this is research chemicals. So finally, time went on, and there was even a friend that came and said, hey, look, I could hook you up with peptides. At that time, I really wanted to incorporate peptides into my training business in some way, shape, or form, even though it was a referral business, but I really couldn't find anyone to work with me. At the end of 2025, I finally did find somebody that would work with me, and I'm able to refer people to get their lab work done, and I can help them analyze it, as well as people that if they're approved, the doctor prescribes them the peptides. And since then, I've used my favorites this year in 2026 has been tesamorelin. A lot of people don't like tesamorelin, and a lot of people do. There's people that hate people that like tesamorelin. I think that peptides is one of those things that people are consistently trying to one-up each other on in the conversation. They're consistently trying to say, oh, well, tesamorelin is not that special, and any secreted growth hormone will work. And sometimes I think, is it because they can't get any? Because their research, because if you research grade chemicals don't typically have tesamorelin, I've seen. And so it's like, I wonder if it's convenient for them to just sort of say it's the same thing. So these questions that I get as somebody that knows a little bit more than I'd say an average person in the marketplace is where I think that I'm making a video like this to serve those sort of questions. And I wanted to give you my origin story to tell you, like, are peptides right for you? The best way to go about it is to look at your body and see if you're feeling symptoms that you feel might benefit from any kind of assistance, right? Like for me, it was a knee pain. And I want to start with that because that BPC 157, to most people's experience, is one of the most powerfully sort of undercurrent, very like not glitzy, not glamorous, but just delivers results for many people. Does not mean it will deliver for you. You have to say that because people sort of can say, well, he told me to take this, and I'm not telling you to take that. So that's sort of a little bit as to, you have to do some blood work. Ideally, the proper channel goes like, do some blood work with a doctor that can prescribe you the peptide, and then reevaluate based upon your results and continued labs. That's the overarching theme there. And then from there, you make your decision. As far as age group, typically after 30 years old is when people's body starts slowing down. The signal that helps improve, like whether it's your growth hormone, whether it's healing, whether it's sleep, whether it's fat burning, whether it's GLP, whatever the thing is that your body produces to maximize its potential or optimize, that signal, the signal that your body naturally tells your body to produce these hormones, slows down as we age. So the peptide helps reestablish that signal, and so it encourages your body to restart, or like jumper cables, get the thing going back up again. Okay, so somewhere along there you can find to see if the conversation is right for you. I'd say most people one of the reasons I created the Hunger Command Protocol was that so many people want to enter the conversation of, should I do peptides? Should I take testosterone? Should I take testosterone and peptides? Myself, I do take testosterone and I do take peptides. Now, as soon as you hear that, some people might hear, well, this guy's on everything. And the key and the truth is that the more that you use performance enhancing drugs or enhancements, the more you realize that so much of it is always and always has been the work. It's not eating chips that have, like I had a few chips this week and I felt I paid for that a little bit. And I didn't have an extravagant amount, but as a trainer, I could tell you that it's those little things that we think are trivial in our nutrition. It's not sleeping enough. It's not getting enough water. These are, you could say, the base of your pyramid, and that's why I designed the pyramid of the Hunger Command Protocol, is to show that the peptides are at the top that are kind of it's like the cherry on top of the pyramid. If everything is already optimized, meaning you're sleeping well, 7-8 hours, you're drinking your water, you're in a good mental state, you meditate, you're listening to good dialogue within yourself, you are weight training, you're doing your cardio, you're pushing your heart to get a VO2 max up, you're eating well, high fibrous food, vegetables, proteins, carbs, and then you add something like tesamorelin to help improve fat loss, you're going to see a far different result, a far different refinement than the person that doesn't sleep well, they eat kind of whatever they want, they don't weight train very regularly, their cardio is and then they throw tesamorelin in there, and they're kind of shooting in the dark. They don't have any labs at all. They're not working with any kind of medical advice, but they're trying research grade chemicals, right? And they're like, let's go. This is kind of the trend now. I think that those are two good pictures as to compare the different types of people, or that I would say the general different types of mentalities in the marketplace right now. And the closer you move to this end of the spectrum, where you're definitely focusing on the work, and then selecting a peptide that you know or have talked to an expert with, a doctor, done your research on, you're going to get a far different result than somebody that's kind of winging it. If you like more information, I'm going to invite you to my school, my school link down there, school.com link. It's called the Hunger Command Protocol. It's a protocol I designed this year. It takes all my life's work and allows the client to enter the conversation as to where peptides or hormone therapy and performance enhancing drugs land. Okay. And yeah, this is Jacob Adams. The link is below. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Peace.